Y'all look so excited.
How excited did you want me to be, Tammy, while I'm writing emails?
a little more enthusiastic. Is it a good email? Or is it a scowling email? I've sent a few scowling emails today.
Yeah, I try not to send the scowling kind.
I know. Well, you got to scowl and then revise it.
Hello, everybody. Hey, hear me, Tammy?
Hello, how are you?
Hey, everyone. It's the first time I use this in my office. The speaker works fine.
Greetings, everybody. Hello.
Hi, Daryl.
Hello, Daryl.
Hello. Hey, Jim.
Daryl, your background looks fantastic.
You like? Oh, thank you.
I like that virtual UTC.
Go Mox, you know.
Go Max, that's right. So did you teach today?
No, this Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Yep.
Hey, Matt, how are you, Matt?
How you doing, Zabin?
I'm doing good. It looks very calm.
Doing my best. What is your hat? Oh, I see.
It's just
Yeah. So are you in an office in
Brock.
in Brock? Okay.
Yes, Brock. Yeah, we did a move. We stayed put, and I think because we had a few faculty changes, so we have some kind of office room for, moving around, keep the water flow.
I think you have fewer people in your building now, right? Since MCH.
Oh yeah, it's pretty quiet. Probably just me and Amara today.
Is Charlene, can anybody hear Charlene? Charlene, we can't hear you.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. I'm not having the best of day on Zoom. If you were on the provost question and answer earlier, I accidentally ended the meeting for everyone when I tried to leave. So sorry about that one. So this is my double mistake.
Wait, that wasn't intentional?
No.
Oh,
I was trying to leave to go to another meeting and I accidentally ended it for everyone about 12 minutes early. So I apologize for that. I should know how to Zoom by now, right? Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. It looks like we do have a quorum. Our first item of business is to approve the minutes from August 20th. So if everybody's had a chance to look over them, particularly to double check the attendance, I will say we try our best to get the attendance right online, but it's a bear to see exactly who checked in on Zoom. So are there any changes, edits, comments about the minutes? Okay, then I was also advised by a former president who's better at the Roberts rules than I am, that we don't actually have to have a formal vote about the minutes. I have to ask, are there any objections to approving the minutes? All right, then we'll accept those minutes as approved and we'll move right on to administrative reports. We'll see if the chancellor has anything he would like to say.
I don't have anything to add, but be glad to address any questions if there were any, if you want to do.
I have a question for the chancellor.
Sure, Don.
It's come to my attention that the UT system is pushing for all the universities in the system to take measures for austerity in terms of budgets. And I've heard that the plan put forward by your office was to instantiate a faculty and staff pay reduction of up to 2%, which the recommendation I heard from the president, President Boyd, was to cut administration positions. So I want to know if that's true and what the plan is coming out of your office, and if there is a plan to cut faculty and staff salaries or pay, how will there be, once this austerity measure is over, how will there be any kind of certainty or guarantee that those pays will be restored to their pre-austerity levels?
So let me address it, because going any further is probably not productive. I don't know of anything of what you're talking about. When we first were looking at COVID and we were concerned about the impact on enrollment, we looked at a lot of different options and what we might be able to do. But you're looking at something we talked about in March. And here we are in September with enrollment up 100 students. Our housing has been pretty solid, not 100% occupancy, but we need some beds for quarantine isolation. So the budget's in really good shape. I can tell you, I spoke today with President Boyd and the other chancellors. We had a meeting all morning. This subject did not come up, was not broached. There is nothing new. He's anticipating, based on the state budget, which the revenues are up, and from what we expected in August, he's expecting to get some additional projects funded through the state, including the additional $4.5 million to take on another campus in the system with Martin Methodist University. So there's nothing at all that I know of, and I know Dr. Brown's on the call here, and I think he can confirm that, because we don't want that. We would really,
yeah, that's why I'm
about it. Absolutely, you are right to be concerned. And if that rumor's out there, I am so glad you said something.
Yeah, it was brought to my attention by someone in the College of Engineering, and I don't want to disclose who it was, but I knew that this meeting was coming, and I said, told them that I would address it directly with you. Who better to speak to than the person whose name is being dropped in the conversation. So I appreciate that. I was kind of shocked when they mentioned it because I knew that our enrollment at least had stayed steady compared to last year, compared to, and what I had heard in previous, faculty senate meetings. Didn't seem to be an indication that we were in a situation where we needed to cut our budgets, right? Because I did hear from, Dr. Brown and all the reporting that's been coming out of your office. The administration overall as a university has been pretty positive, and I know that your office and Dr. Brown and everybody in the university has taken a very proactive approach to this, and I appreciate that. So thank you.
Well,
Dr. Brown?
let me affirm what the chancellor just said. We're in pretty strong financial position right now. We just closed the university books for the prior fiscal year. We closed in the black. So we're okay, and we've done great financial planning, great stewardship across the university. So for right now, that's a rumor. We'd like to kind of kill that right here.
I'll make sure that I go back and correct and make sure the correct information is being put out. So like I said, I'm thankful that you guys are clarifying everything, and I've always felt that your the administration has done a great job in sharing all those details with us and being transparent. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, Provost Hale, do you have an administrative report?
We had about, at the height this morning, about 80 people on the line for our Thursday morning forum, and that includes some of you. So let me apologize to those of you for whom this will be some repetition, but I'll include in my report the same 5 basic information items that I passed along to folks this morning. The first is, I hope that you were able to log in yesterday afternoon for the opening session of Mock Forward for this year, which will be conducted virtually. It was an outstanding session, and I especially want to draw some attention to Nicole Brown, who facilitated the session for us, and congratulate her on the excellent work that she did. I hope that you'll continue to watch for the announcements for the next Mock Forward session and sessions that will be conducted. The second thing that I wanted to let folks know about is to remind everyone that the faculty awards will be given tonight in a virtual ceremony as well. And so I want to invite you to join us this evening as we pay tribute both to our faculty colleagues who are retiring, and also those who have been awarded awards for their excellent work, whether it's teaching, research, or service. The third thing I want to remind folks of is that the Chancellor's State of the Union address, which has been recorded, will be uploaded in live for you to listen to on Friday, and so I hope you'll take the time to watch that address as well. The fourth thing that we talked about, and probably most importantly, out of the introductory comments that I made this morning, is that the pulse survey that we administered to students, the results are back on it. We're still asking for some clarifying analyses for some things that we thought were either not analyzed as completely as they might be, or not explained as well as they might be explained. But briefly, here's what I think we've learned from it. There was an item in the survey asking students about the level of stress that they felt like they were feeling this semester, and as you might expect, as is the case I think for most of us, students are also feeling more stress than what they think is usual or normal for an ordinary semester for them. That did not seem to tamper their expectations for their academic performance. In the main, they also thought that they were going to perform very, very well this semester. The third thing, and it was a concern both to Vice Chancellor Freeman and me, and was that students, though, don't feel like they have connected to campus this semester in ways that they might have ordinarily connected to campus. And I think that's to be expected to a certain extent, both because we have fewer students on campus this semester than usual, but also because many of the kinds of student activities that students would ordinarily participate in are unavailable. And then the classroom instructional modalities have changed, and you know, some students I'm sure are not entirely comfortable with the unique classroom environments that they're finding themselves in. We did ask students what their preferences would be for classes in the spring, and those findings I think are very interesting. What we found was that students' preferences were for asynchronous online communication and face-to-face communication. The things that they preferred least and would like to have least of are synchronous online classes and also hybrid classes, including the sort of rotating schedules that many of our classes are being offered on currently. There were also a large quantity of students. So most of the students said that they wanted 3, 4, or 5 of their classes either asynchronously online or face-to-face. There were also a large quantity of students who wanted 0 of their classes either asynchronously online or face-to-face. And so there are those students who don't want face-to-face courses, just as we experienced during the summer when we did our own version of a pulse survey. And so we are still making our way through those data. I gave the survey results to President Simmons earlier in the week, also gave the results to the deans at the Council of Deans on Tuesday, and they asked if they could share the results with their department heads, and I said, absolutely, please share the results, and then we'll talk about them again in the upcoming week or so. So those were the major items that we touched on this morning, then in addition to a variety of questions that come up every week during those forums. In case you're wondering, we had responses from 1,768 students for that pulse survey. So we had a reasonably large sample size that came back from it. And President Simmons, I'll stop there.
Jerry, can I ask a question? It's
Sure.
Hillcratic. Say one more time. I was trying to pay attention, but I got a little bit confused. The students do want synchronous courses online. Is that what you said?
No, their preferences are either for face-to-face courses or for asynchronous.
Or for asynchronous. Okay,
Their,
so the least favorite was the synchronous online course.
their least favorite was synchronous online, but it was not significantly different than the hybrid description, which included the sorts of rotating classes as well.
Any other questions for the provost? Are there any other administrative reports?
Dr. Simmons, let me just quickly update you on the administrative side of the house. Again, we closed the 19 and 20 budget in a solid financial position, a strong position really. And we closed pursuant to state policy. Those books have been closed in the black. We presented the year-end close numbers to the chancellor and the provost and went over every line item in the closure. You will see very shortly that the chancellor and provost will be returning to the colleges unspent course fees and F&As, differential tuition revenues that's there. We're going to return those back to the colleges for operating expenses. We're very, very pleased to do that. We closed the books again in pretty solid financial position, even with COVID-19. And much of that is because over the last 3 to 4 years, we've had strong financial stewardship. And I do want to thank the faculty for all that they have done throughout this experience with COVID-19 and even in the prior years to keep us in a strong and healthy financial position. You close one budget and you start another one. And we're already beginning to start the 2021 budget. We presented the timeline to the chancellor and the leadership team. They approved that this week, and we will be getting that out to you shortly. The process this year will be very similar to last year. We had some great conversations, what we call conversations with major divisions, including all the deans, where we have good conversations with them about where they are and what their budget needs are. We'll continue that process as well. Also, the faculty had a pulse survey. HR will also design a pulse survey for staff, trying to ask some pretty in-depth questions about how they're dealing with COVID-19, any type of anxieties they're experiencing, and what we can do to make the situation a little bit better. So it's a very, very good report coming on the administrative side of the house. So thank you for all that you do.
Any questions for Vice Chancellor Brown? Okay, any other administrative reports?
Dr. Simmons, I don't know if this is when you want me to talk about or later on. Now, okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. I'm Jim Hicks, the Dean of Students, and I was talking with Dr. Matthews about coming and talking to faculty a little bit about the process that we go through to notify you of students coming in and out of quarantine or in and out of isolation. And just to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that we have and maybe answer some questions that could clarify kind of what's going on. So first and foremost, we certainly want to create an experience for you that where you feel safe, for your students in your classroom, and where you feel safe, of course, for yourself. We have had some challenges. We had a staff member go down ill and was out for a number of days, and we did not realize how sick he was for a couple of days. And once we found out, we realized we were 2 or 3 days behind in notifications. And so just so you know, we get about 50 to 100 forms a day. And that could result in, as you know, a number of emails. And I've heard some faculty members lamenting at the number of emails we're sending them. So we're sending those out every day. We have caught up. We caught up a couple of days ago, maybe early part of this week. And so some of the things that I've heard about, students getting sent a letter and then another letter a couple of days later, that shouldn't happen as much. But there are still situations where it could occur. There are some things about the system that are just difficult to manage. For those of you who may be following along, we typically do a 10-day isolation period and a 14-day quarantine period. That 14 days can be 24, but both of those time periods are from the beginning date is either exposure or when we receive a test. And they don't always tell us the same day that they were exposed. And so if they were exposed 5 days ago and we find out, and it takes us, a day to get the email out, then they're only in quarantine possibly for another 7 or 8 days. And so you may think, well, that's supposed to be 14. Why is it only 8? And that is one of the reasons why. We also have students who are exposed and they're told to isolate until they're tested. And once they're given a test and give us the results, then they can be released. And so sometimes that is 2 to 3 days. So you might get an email saying a student has been placed in quarantine, and then 3 days later you get that they're out. And I understand why that's confusing, because again, we've been saying quarantine is 14 or 24 days. Now we've told you it's only 3 days, and that's confusing. And so Those are all situations that occur. Each situation is a little bit different as we go through contact tracing. But I wanted to be here to talk a little bit about it and then maybe to respond to any questions that we have. I also want to encourage you to share with your colleagues that if you've got a student that you're concerned about or something about the forms don't make sense, please reach out to me. I'm handling those individually and will kind of look up the student's case and get back with you as soon as I can about that student's particular case. So with that, I'll yield to any questions or comments.
Jim, that was really helpful in understanding what that looks like. A few faculty have told me concerns that they have that because there are so many emails coming about different students and this one's out and this one's in, is there, and I know this is extra work, a system like Accommodate, right, where we can see kind of the disability, like what disability accommodations people have of extra time on tests, that sort of thing. And it's all in this one location rather than trying to keep track of multiple emails coming at multiple times. And when you're teaching, you know, multiple different sections and I have multiple different modalities, I am lost about who's supposed to be here, who's not, you know, what that's supposed to look like.
Yeah, I saw that question yesterday, I think in the Q&A on Wednesday. And so I've reached out to Michelle Rigler to understand that system a little better. I don't know. Right now, we currently have 4 systems that talk to each other, 4 different databases, and anybody who is in information technology is now screaming at the monitor saying, why are you doing that? So to add another one would concern me, but I like the idea of having a place where we could interact with the database. A faculty member could go see and not have, because as you can imagine, you're getting a lot of email. The number of emails that we see coming in and out of our COVID email address is insane. I don't know really no other way to put it. And so I'll reach out and talk with Dr. Rigler about that and try to give maybe through Dr. Matthews or Dr. Simmons some type of feedback, follow up with you guys about that possibility. So thanks for the suggestion. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, thank you. It also helps for attendance for the in-person classes of, if we have to go back to the 2 days, oh, they were absent. Oh, right. It was because of, they were supposed to be in quarantine. And so that, that also helps provide backup for the students as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dean Hicks?
Well, again, I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk. If you do have questions about individual students, feel free to give me a call or an email. I'll be happy to track those down. And if you have other faculty colleagues that you're hearing from, please tell them to give me a call or email, and I'll be happy to help them. And thank you for everything you guys are doing to help our students. So,
are there any other administrators hiding that I can't see who want to speak? Okay, we don't have any committee reports. Our committees are all just starting to do their work, and so it will probably not be another month or so before we get reports. So we'll move on to new business. I do have some updates and announcements. I put them all under, a lot of them under new business, because where am I going to put them? All right, the first one, as you're aware, academic calendar has been updated for the spring. We will start our semester a little later than normal. We'll start the Tuesday after ML King Day. We will not have a spring break. I would happen to be on the committee that suggested that academic calendar. I can tell you we did it for several reasons. One, we were very nervous about returning so quickly after New Year's Day. Originally, we were going to be returning just, I think, 4 or 5 days after New Year's Day, and we were worried that people might attend New Year's Eve festivities and not yet know that they're ill and come back to campus. So we wanted a bit of a cushion between New Year's Eve and the return of campus. We were also trying to limit the number of 3-day weekends and travel opportunities, but we also didn't want to not observe ML King. So we decided to starting the day after ML King would allow us to observe that holiday and give us that 2-week buffer between New Year's Eve and the start of classes. I'll be frank, the committee did not recommend including the spring holiday in the calendar. The campus was overruled on that by the system, and so yes, we will be observing spring holiday. This does mean we will be ending our semester 1 week later than usual. So as you all are aware, we sent out a survey asking faculty what preference you all have for adjusting future calendars, because we have to make up that week somewhere. So we gave the faculty 2 options in the survey. One was to just this one time, just this summer, shorten summer school by 1 week to an 11-week for the whole, the long term would be 11-week. The other option was to try to maintain a 12-week summer, but then start fall semester 1 week late and thus end it 1 week late. The vast majority of faculty voted for the 11-week choice. The survey did reveal that there were some departments that might struggle a bit more with an 11-week. So we spent some time, the registrar visited with a lot of the programs, particularly quite a few in CHEPS, and talked to them about the impact of an 11-week summer. And based on everything we've learned so far, and the committee is in the process of drafting our recommendation, which we will send to the provost next week. But this point, it looks like we'll be recommending that we adopt an 11-week summer session just for this one summer. And then that would allow us to get back on to our original calendar. But that's just a draft recommendation. I'll update you as far as what our final recommendation is. And then of course, it's up to many powers that be higher than that to make the final decision. Do we have any questions or comments about the academic calendar?
Charlene, if it ends up that fall does get pushed back, does that only leaves about 2 weeks between when grades are due for winter semester and when spring semester starts in 2022?
I mean, yes, and it would shorten. So one of the things that is unique about the academic calendar in general, so usually we have, I think about 3 or 4 weeks, 4 weeks in between the end of a fall semester and the start of the spring. But every 4 to 5 years, I might have that wrong, it might be 3 to 4 years, we actually lose a week because of the way the calendar works and all the adjustments. This was supposed to be this winter was going to be the winter where we had the shortened just like 3 weeks in between fall and spring. That's why we were starting so quick after New Year's Day. We've actually extended it, so this is our 5-week winter. Enjoy it for once we get a 5-week winter. So yes, there's usually 1 year where we'll lose it. Now, if we go with the 11-week summer and we stick with our original fall, we'll be back to a 4-week winter break next year, a year from now. But yes, if for some reason we end up adopting or maintaining a 12-week, yes, it would shorten it to 3 weeks, which is what would have happened this year. So it's really just changing the year. We would have had the 3-week winter break rather than the traditional 4-week. As our registrar likes to say, it's a quirk of the Gregorian calendar that we always have this one week shorter every couple of years. Other questions about the calendar? Okay, then my next item is we did have our faculty pulse survey to check in with everybody. I am just beginning to process the results. I've only been able to do 2 questions so far. My goal is to have it completed by the end of the weekend. We've had over 350 responses, so a strong response rate. We sent it out both to full-time faculty and adjunct faculty, so we got a strong response from both categories. And my goal is to send it out ahead of the full faculty meeting, which is next Tuesday. So my goal is to have it done by the Sunday and send it out to everyone. So you have a time to look at it, and then we can talk about it at the full faculty meeting. I've only done 2 questions so far. Both were related to stress. I think it should be no surprise to anyone that we are all more stressed than in the past. So nearly 80% of faculty expressed being more stressed than in past semesters. Some interesting initial findings are that our non-tenure track faculty are the most stressed, while our adjunct faculty are the least stressed. It's also interesting to find that faculty that are teaching a mix of face-to-face and online classes are the most stressed, while faculty that are teaching exclusively online are least stressed. So those are kind of initial findings. I'll have far more detail when I send it out. Any questions about the survey at this point? Okay, then Beth Crawford and I serve on the University Faculty Council. It's where the faculty from all UT campuses come together and talk once a month. Our meeting was yesterday, so there's a couple items I want to bring up, and then I'll give Beth an opportunity to fill in anything I missed. First item, so one of my presidential priorities for this year is to push the UT system to reopen their discussion about 9-month faculty sick leave. We discussed that at the UFC meeting, and the UFC is in the process of drafting a resolution that would encourage the system to revisit the issue of 9-month faculty leave. And so we'll see. Our goal is to try to get something put together in time to go to the board. We'll see how, but it's not, we do not have a resolution yet. But it's a step forward if we can get a resolution calling on the system to move forward with 9-month faculty sick leave. The UT system is begun a process of drafting shared values for the system. They've hired a consultant. She met with us yesterday and did some brainstorming activities with us about what the shared values might be for our system. She had already spoken to the chancellors. They're going to be visiting the various campuses over the next unknown amount of time. And so they will be quote unquote visiting, whatever that ends up meaning, whether it's digital or in person to be determined. The campuses and be doing focus groups. And so we'll probably be reaching out again to get faculty involved in those focus groups to help shape the values of the UT system. And then finally, there was a short presentation about the UT system is in the process of creating an online consortium where campuses could put some of the classes we're already offering online into a consortium where other UT system students could take the classes. It's still very much a work in progress. They're working out the details, but at this point, they were talking about maybe launching it this summer, just with 2 classes per campus. But I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more of it with time to come. I have some questions about it that I will continue to follow up. One of my big questions for them that they were unable to answer was, how do we get paid? because they were even talking about some of these classes occurring not in our normal sessions. And so I brought up the fact that they're all asynchronous classes, but I did point out it still takes a faculty member to actually teach an asynchronous class, not a computer, and that, you know, the faculty member needs to be paid for that. So that's what I have. Beth Crawford, do you want to fill in any more about UFC?
If I can just add one more name, Christina Vogel is also serving on that committee, and even better, she serves as the statewide faculty representative to the Education, Research, and Service Committee for the board. There's only one faculty member on that particular committee, and it's Chattanooga's turn, and Christina is who was selected for that. We also just got a very brief update. I'm sure everybody read in the news about the potential acquisition of Martin Methodist and what might happen there. And so that's just an ongoing. If you have questions or concerns that you want brought to the UFC, please let one of the 3 of us know, and we will work on that. And I think you covered all the rest of it.
So anybody have any questions about UFC or the items I brought up? Okay, then workload policy. I've been talking to the Chancellor, Provost, and the Senate Executive Committee. I've been talking about how to move forward with trying to develop some kind of workload policy. The Senate had looked at this in the years 2014, 15, and 16. And there was a workload policy presented to the Faculty Senate in April of 2016 at the last meeting, and then all discussion stopped on that topic. And so we're talking about ways to revisit it, possibly forming a committee. We're just in the beginning of talking about that, but I wanted to let you all know that is a priority, and we are looking at what our next steps would be. If you happen to have served on that fabulous 2014 to 2016 committee and have any documents you want to share, we have the draft policy. I was able to pull it out of archives, but we can't seem to find the report that was sent to the provost at that time in February of 2015. So if you happen to have a copy of that in your desk or on your computer and want to send it to me, I would much appreciate that. I know several of you may have served on that committee that are on this call. So
Darlene, which committee was that?
the workload policy committee.
There were two. There was one that consisted of faculty, and I believe Manuel Santiago was the chair, and there was a second one. I believe Michelle Deerdorf may have been the chair.
Okay.
But I'm curious which one you mean.
It doesn't really, the Senate archives don't specify which of the two. The person who presented was John Tucker, just to complicate it even more. He's the one that presented the policy.
Then that was the second one that consisted of, I think, Michelle Deerdorf, John Tucker, sorry, the former head of HHP, his name escapes me. And
Gary Ligori?
Yes, Gary Ligori.
Was Nicholas Boyer on that? I'm not calling him out, but I think Nicholas was involved in one of those.
It was only department heads.
Oh, Gary Ligori then. Okay.
Yeah, so Gary was on there, and I don't know if John or Michelle are on the call, but I was on there as well. What is the specific document you're looking for?
Well, we have the document that they submitted to the Faculty Senate, which was a workload policy, but there's also references to a report that was generated a year before that was sent to the Provost Ainsworth, and that seems to be missing.
That was right, and that was Manuel Santiago's committee.
Okay.
I may still have a copy. I'll take a look.
Fabulous. Oh, and I see Barry Kemrith mentioned that graduate council is looking at workload policies for graduate faculty. And yes, we would like to work in tandem because we do have a lot of faculty that teach both graduate and undergraduate classes. So we need to work out a workload policy that takes all of that into account. So I'll follow up with you, Barry. All right. Under unfinished business, I'm going to address some of the faculty concerns that have popped up recently and kind of our developments on those. So these are faculty concerns that have been brought up at Faculty Senate meetings or submitted to me by email or the anonymous form. There have been a lot of faculty that have requested more information on the COVID dashboard. Those questions and concerns have been forwarded to the administration. I doubt we'll see a change in the dashboard, but we'll keep asking. Classroom technology, there was an update, and if you were on the call this morning, Tony Parsley gave an update. The 50 web camera bundles that the university has been waiting on since June have finally arrived on campus, and they are being installed as we speak. Contractors are working a lot at night because they don't want to disturb classes. And Tony Parsley said the goal is to have the installations completed by Saturday. Then they do still have a little bit of programming work to do, but some of the classrooms are already online. So I think he said 18 were completed, and that they were updating the website where they list it all. They're updating it as they finish rooms, and then they're looking at ways to try to contact faculty directly to let them know that the rooms are being updated. But if you happen to teach in one of the 50 rooms that was planned to be fully outfitted, we're getting close to those being outfitted. Vicki Farnsworth also mentioned in another meeting I attended that she is looking for additional funding to try to outfit more classrooms for the spring. Obviously, there are issues with acquiring more equipment. Like even if we have the money, it's about supply chain. So no guarantees we'll have more classrooms for the spring, but IT really is doing everything they can to try to outfit additional classrooms. And of course, if you are in a classroom that does not have a web camera, you can still request a portable one. It's what I use for the classroom I'm in. Just go to IT's website and fill out the form where you can request a portable web camera to take with you to classes. Are there any questions about the classroom technology or issues that come up? Okay, then some faculty had expressed some concerns about the scheduling process, specifically how the spring schedule and CPI is done, and had asked for more modalities. So they'd actually previously paused phase 1, and registrar's office has created now 5 modalities for the spring. So right now we have 3 modalities, in the spring we'll have 5 modalities. They're 100% synchronous online, 100% asynchronous online. There's a face-to-face rotation, which would be listed as hybrid. And then there's a high flex, which is where you teach in multiple modalities and you allow students to select their modality on a class by class basis. And so phase 1, I believe already ended, but they have been making adjustments for additional modalities in the system. I don't know if Matt Matthews wants to update or correct me on scheduling if I got anything wrong there.
Charlene, I don't mind correcting you, but I would prefer for Joel Wells to do so. I think
That
he's
too.
on the call.
Yeah, I always say things wrong, then Joel has to correct me, so.
I actually have no corrections to offer. Our hope is that the additional modality will be more informative to students than what was available to them in the fall, primarily so that they have an understanding of, is there an expectation for them to come to downtown Chattanooga on any of the days of the week, or will they be able to conduct a completely online schedule? So the high flex, we believe that gives the ability to signal to students whether they need to plan to get to campus or roll out of their dorm bed.
Yes. All right, I will also say that the Senate will continue to advocate for faculty choice in picking those modalities. And this is actually a topic of discussion this weekend. Tufts, or the Tennessee, I forget what the University Faculty Senates are meeting this weekend. And it's on our agenda to talk about possibly creating a resolution promoting faculty choice in teaching modalities. I'll keep you updated. The way Tufts work, if Tufts does a resolution, we draft it, but then it has to be sent to each individual institution and ratified by each Senate. And only once a certain number of Senates have ratified it does Tufts ratify the resolution. So at this point, we're just talking about a possible resolution. If we have any movement forward, I would bring it to the Senate at our next meeting. There's been a lot of different questions about university finances. Richard Brown has agreed to come in October and do a full presentation. He wanted an opportunity to get the books fully closed from our past fiscal year. And so October Senate is the best time, but he'll come and give us a full presentation on how we closed out our books for last year and kind of give us an idea of where we stand financially. And hopefully that will answer a lot of the questions that have come up over the last few weeks. There was a question submitted anonymously about the academic calendar survey and why I asked for college, why I asked people to identify their rank as, whether they were full professor, assistant professor, etc. And why I asked for department info. And I just wanted to explain why I asked for those 2 information. It wasn't in an attempt to figure out who people are. When we do anonymous surveys through Canvas, they really are anonymous. So as long as it says anonymous survey in Canvas, we don't get UTC IDs, we don't even get IP addresses, it's truly anonymous. I asked for rank because I wanted to run the results to see if any faculty rank was skewing the results. I mean, we were looking heavily at summer school, and I wanted to be able to tell, for example, if full professors were voting one way and non-tenure track were voting the other way, because to be frank, based on the finances of summer school, full professors rarely teach summer school, and instructors and adjuncts carry a lot of the load. So I wanted to see if the results vary depending on rank. They didn't. It was pretty consistent, that all different ranks wanted a similar decision, but I thought it was important for us to be able to tell, was there a particular group of faculty? That's also why we asked, are you 12-month or 9-month, to see if there was any group of faculty that was skewing the results one way or the other. I asked for college department information, because it helped us identify whether there was a department that might be impacted by either choice. So for example, I ran the results and realized that in mechanical engineering, they were actually the one and only department where the majority of faculty voted for maintaining the 12-week summer. And that led us to go talk to mechanical engineering. The registrar actually went and spoke to mechanical engineering and said, okay, would there be problems if you had an 11-week? And they were able to talk about, could we make an 11-week work? And so the reason we asked for department really was just to find out, was there a department we had overlooked? Because we knew that, for example, nursing and PT, OT, social work, they run a lot of clinicals, and so dropping a week could impact them, but we wanted to see if there were any other departments that might have concerns. So that's why I asked for that information. And then we have kind of one faculty concern that's still very much floating out there, and I'll continue to follow up. There's been a lot of questions, including this morning, about student evaluations. Of course, in the spring, it was optional whether you, the student evaluations were reported only to the faculty member, and then it is optional for the faculty member whether they're going to report them in their EDO or in their tenure or promotion processes. A decision has not been made about the summer evaluations or the fall evaluations, but we'll continue to have those discussions. The provost mentioned they're talking about it now, and so we'll continue to ask that question and follow up and advocate for some choice in the reporting of those student evaluations. So that gets us caught up on prior faculty concerns. So now I open the floor for new faculty concerns.
Hi, Charlene. This is Ethan Mills. I just have a question about one you brought up with the dashboard. What is the particular resistance to changing it? Did you have any more information for us about that?
So it's been pointed out that there's additional information on the UT system level dashboard. And so one argument is that we don't want to report information in two different places and have that information conflict with one another. And so instead of reporting at our level, we'll just let the system report it. There's also been some discussion about whether certain numbers are really good indicators. So for example, we have a lot of empty quarantine rooms. Is that really an effective indicator how things are going? Because in fact, we just have a lot of students that go home rather than go into the quarantine rooms. And so there's been a lot of discussion about if certain data is really effective or not. That's as much as I can really say. I don't know if anybody else wants to explain the choices about the dashboard.
I think we're trying to provide enough information so people get a good sense of what the activity of the virus is on our campus. And, the quarantine rooms are one thing that we have had more people go home than we anticipated when they go to quarantine or isolation. At some level, and to report some of the hospital data and other things, it's just much better to link to those sites. Even in the Times Free Press, if you look at the big table that is the nation and every state, the Tennessee numbers never agree with the Tennessee tables that are a page or two earlier in the paper, and they can be off quite a bit. So we've tried to have one place for consistent data.
Other faculty concerns? Okay, so if there's no other concerns, we'll move on to announcements. I have just 2 announcements, and I'm going to put their links in the chat, and then I'll open it up to other announcements. Of course, we do have our faculty awards tonight. It starts, there's a reception at 6, and then the program starts at 6:30, and I provided the Zoom link. We are having our full faculty meeting on Tuesday at 3 p.m., and there's the link there. So any other announcements? Okay, we're quiet today. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, there's an announcement in the chat, so be sure to check that out. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Okay, Beth is the first. Do we have a second? I see Dawn next, just by hands. All right. Thank you all. We'll see you hopefully at the full faculty meeting on Tuesday and then at our next Senate meeting. Bye-bye.